prison was one of the forerunners of an entire school of thought on prison construction and reform. The prison was built on Walnut Street in Philadelphia as a city jail in 1773 to alleviate overcrowding in the existing city jail. Although designed by Robert Smith, Pennsylvania's most prominent architect, the building was a typical U-shaped building designed to hold groups of prisoners in large rooms. By and large, the rule of prisons was to incarcerate criminals. There was a little regard for their physical well-beings, nor were overcrowded and dirty, and inmates attacked each other regularly. Those who served their sentences came out of prison probably more declined toward a criminal life than they were before their incarceration. It was Quakers of the Philadelphia who came up with the concept for what they called a penitentiary, a place where prisoners could reflect on their crime and become truly sorry for what they had done. The Quakers believed that through reflection and repentance, inmates would give up crime and leave prison rehabilitated. Shortly after the American Revolution, a group of Quakers formed the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries for Public Prisons, whose goal was made clear in its name. Later, the group became known as the Pennsylvania Prison Society. In the years after the Revolution, this work grew to encourage prison reform, and its efforts finally paid off in 1970 when the Walnut Street Jail became the first state penitentiary in the country. The main addition to the Walnut Street complex was a new cell blocks called the Penitentiary House. Built in a courtyard of the existing structure, it included a series of small cells designed to hold individual prisoners. The cells and the corridors connecting them were designed to prevent prisoners from communicating with each other. Windows were high up, the hills had 9-foot high ceilings, and grated and louvered to prevent prisoners from looking into the street. Each cell had a mattress, a water tap, and a privy pipe. The concepts of solitary confinement and repentance were key components of prison life at these institutions. Although some Pennsylvania system prisons did introduce labor to the inmates. Visitors from overseas who were interested in prison reform visited Walnut Street. Eastern State and similar prisons to see how they operated and to gain knowledge about prison reform strategies. As for Walnut Street, its success was short-lived despite the good intentions of the Quakers. The practical matter of housing prisoners became more pressing than the desire among prison. officials who rehabilitate the inmates. Walnut Street became overcrowded and dirty, and there was no sign that isolated prisoners were being rehabilitated through solitude. By the 1830s, the prison had outlived its usefulness and it was closed in 1835. Later, it was razed, and a library now stands on the site. Soon, it was clear that the Auburn system worked better at rehabilitating prisoners than the Pennsylvania system. And in the next century, the Auburn system became the dominant one. Many prisons built to operate under the Pennsylvania system switched to the Auburn system. Vestiges of the Pennsylvania system exist in the philosophy of humane punishment. Although no prison in the U.S. as of 2003 would place anyone in near total isolation, except in extreme circumstances. In 1970, Philadelphia Walnut Street Jail was expanded to alleviate overcrowding. This result was the first U.S. penitentiary, the Walnut Street Prison, shown in the background of this 1799 engraving by William Russell Birch.